Chuck Worley, the founder and co-host of the 757 House Whisperer Show. Tonight is Wednesday at 6 to 7, every single Wednesday night. 52 weeks a year, you get to hear our beautiful voices telling you fixing the problems at your house. Sorry, it always messes me up when I don't hear the intro music.
Yeah,
did y'all hear the intro?
I did not hear the intro.
I'm waiting for the intro music to come in. That didn't, but I'm sure somebody heard it. But anyway, hey, this is Chuck Worley. We are live from Yorktown, Virginia. I have opened a podcast booth over in off Production Drive in Yorktown, so I didn't have to get to Dominion Tower at 6 p.m. and traffic in downtown Norfolk. That was always fun.
Oh yeah, a winner.
That was always fun. So we got a really nice podcast booth that we're working out of over here in Yorktown, Virginia. It's been fantastic. So I will introduce myself again. It is I am Chuck Worley. I own Worley's Home Services. I do HVAC, ductwork, plumbing, electrical, crawl space, insulation, and spray foam. Houses talk to me, which is why I came up with the idea of the 757 House Whisperer Show, to put together a group of contractors that can help you solve problems in your house. So I'm going to start. Let's I want everybody to introduce themselves, but I also want to tell you guys, this is your opportunity. Call in while we're introducing ourselves. 757-627-7979. Call in, ask. I am a building science, expert, building science geek, really. Ask the Expert Show, problems with your house. Call in, whether it's gutters, roofing, siding, crawl space issues, moisture. What do you do? Windows and doors.
Windows,
painting. Jack, I tell you why it's not a great idea to paint when it's 14 degrees outside. So these are all the things. Anything that comes to your mind that you are having problems with, you can't figure out why the water's not coming out of a spigot. You got a leaking spigot on the outside. What are the issues with cold weather around a old house, even new houses? We have these houses nowadays are made pretty tight, but there are some that are leaking like sieves because they were not built properly. So any questions about a house, call in 627-7979. We are Ask the Expert Show, fixing houses in the 757. So I will let Mike go ahead and introduce himself.
I'm Michael Davenport. I'm a partner at CVP Windows and Doors. We are the only manufacturer of windows in the Hampton Roads region. We work all the way up to Richmond, up into the northern neck, Deltaville, down into North Carolina, eastern North Carolina, Outer Banks, Elizabeth City, and all the way over into Virginia Beach, Pungo, and on the eastern shore. We install Therma-Tru exterior doors, and everything we do is installed by our local people that actually work for us. We do not subcontract that in these replacement jobs. We supply a lot of new windows to your custom builders in the area, and we have been doing this for going on 24 years. Barry and I were part of the original partner group. We have bought out everybody since then. And we're excited about servicing the Hampton Roads community because everybody out here deserves a good quality product at a fair and affordable price. And we are those guys. We can take care of that. Also want to mention Justin Murphy. Justin is with Pyramid Roofing. They will go in and actually do a roof repair for you. You do not have to get a whole roof installed if you got a few good years just because a tree branch fell and went through the roof. You don't have to get a brand new roof. Justin can take care of it. Very honest guy, very honest company. They'll take care of you whenever you need to have work done. And I'm going to let Jack take over now.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Jack Keller. I own Legacy Painting. We're right here in Yorktown, Virginia. We're actually on Production Drive as well. And we do residential and commercial painting. We do primarily residential. And similar to Mike, all of our guys that are going to be in your house are in-house. Our team, they're going to be respectful, take care of your home, and they're background checked as well. So we're huge on having a great team that's respectful, and you're going to enjoy having them in your home. But yeah, we also do some drywall repairs as well. So if you have any of those nasty, annoying stress cracks throughout your house, or holes in your wall from an angry kid, something like that. So we're more than happy to come out and take care of it for you. And I will also mention Cindy with Alpha Pest Solutions.
Yes, I was just going to say another thing that you do is any contractors out there that step through the route. Not that my company ever does that, but if they do, a man comes over and takes care of it. So definitely any small repairs and stuff on the sheetrock.
Yeah, absolutely. Any type of, cutting out, doing some plumbing, electrical, HVAC work, we'd love to come in behind, make it super easy, and get that patched up, make it super smooth, and get the paint on there and looking brand new. And then Cindy with Alpha Pest Solutions, she is incredible, just like everybody else up here. She knows just about everything in crawl space.
She really does. It is impressive the amount of bugs that she's like, show me the bug or the feces from the bug, and I'll tell you what it is. I'm like, good gracious.
Yeah,
like,
wood beetles, bats, squirrels,
crickets.
Bats in the belfry.
Doesn't matter. Bats in your belfry. Yeah, she can handle it.
But she is the only woman with a license to kill.
Amen.
So she is fantastic. And then, of course, we have Albin, who has a lot of time on his hands now because he has finished my remodel. So definitely want to get him some business on remodeling kitchens, bathrooms, whole house. He actually did a great job on our deck. Also as part of our remodel. So those are the types of things that he does. So anybody calling in about any type of heating and air conditioning, electrical, plumbing, roofing, siding, painting, anything, crawl space, bugs, anything, any type of questions you have, call in. We have an Ask the Expert panel that is going to help you with any of those situations. When you call in, I do have some trivia questions. And for answering the trivia questions or just calling in with a question, if I can find my trivia questions. All right. So what social media platform's birthday is today? What social media platform's birthday is today? So the other one is, here's an interesting. Avocado is one of my favorite. Well, I can't tell you what it is. Is it a fruit or a vegetable? That's the question. So is it a fruit or a vegetable? Which you'll be surprised by the answer of that. So anyway, that's the two trivia. So you call in. I have a couple of things. I have Cooper's Hawk gift card and I have a Chick-fil-A gift card. So when you call in, just tell Mike which one you want, and we will make sure it gets to you. So while we have time, I'm going to tell you 627-7979. Call in with any questions about any issues with your house. It looks like we got Robert on the line, and he has a geothermal question. Hello, Robert.
Yeah. Hello, how are you?
I am doing extremely well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I do have a question, maybe some advice on a geothermal ground loop. I've got geothermal heating and cooling, Climate Master, Tranquility. Works very well. But for the past 20 years, I've had a slow leak in that ground loop, and it's very irritating. Any way to find that? I mean, we've been waiting for years for it to get big enough that it would show up somewhere in the yard, but it just hasn't. But I constantly have to add water to it. And I was wondering if there's anything that can be done to find it without making a new loop.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can give you a guaranteed solution, and that is to pop another well.
Right.
But yes. So that is probably not the answer that you want, but I can guarantee you that is the best way to guarantee it. Filling it back up, that is typically what we have to do. What I'm going to do is Jake, we just took over Gildersleeve. Jake Gildersleeve now works for us. I am texting as we speak, and I am going to see if I can get a better answer, one that there's probably only one guy in Hampton Roads that can answer that question, and that is Jake Gildersleeve.
Is your sealed system laid out like a well vertically, or is it laid
Vertical.
out like a septic field?
Vertical. It's vertical.
Okay.
Six loops.
Yeah. The how
One
deep
of
are your
them's
loops?
leaking.
Do you know?
I'm sorry.
How deep are the wells that your loops go down into?
Not sure, but there's 6 tons of heating and cooling. So, however many feet you need for 6 tons.
You need 200 feet of loop for every ton, right?
That's right.
Minimum.
That's right. Well, it's a loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically one loop per ton. So if he has five plus tons,
Yeah.
6 tons. I know some people oversize it a little bit, or like put an extra, but yeah, as long as you have one well per ton, that is what you need. And what do you have? What kind of utility bills do you have with that geothermal?
Very low. And like I said, it works great. Best heating and cooling I've ever had. I mean, it heats the house even when it's 8 degrees outside, and it cools it when it's 100 outside. The only issue I've ever had, like I said, is the ground loop is always leaked and constantly needs water. I don't even know what it costs to drill a whole new one, but I'd like to find out what my options are, because
it would suck to have to do all 6. That would be the only way to. I mean, if your luck runs like mine, it would be the last loop that I
had the leak.
It's plus you probably don't have enough room in your yard for 6 more tons, because people don't realize how much room that takes up.
Yeah.
I mean, so the loops are 200 feet down, but they have to be at least 15 feet apart, so those loops don't touch, right? So you don't want a heat transfer through the ground. So, but 15 foot apart times 6. Somebody good with math?
Yeah, 15 times 50.
I mean, that's 75
feet. That's going to be.
Yeah, I have.
It's a lot of.
It's a
lot of.
Out.
It's a lot of room. So it takes up a whole yard of your front yard or backyard. So trying to redo that or figure that out, that is not a lot of fun. So we typically have a hard time trying to find yards that actually are big enough to have
that much room.
So the ideal is a 3-ton house. You can pretty much 15 feet apart. You can do like a triangle. So it's not like 15, it's not 50 foot apart.
Not all the way across the back of the yard.
Yeah. So those make it a lot better, even 4-ton units, because then you can kind of pop one at each corner of your yard. But typically, people are like, Thelma and Elma and Louise, they love that tree. You can't move that. So we got to be 15 foot from that, so we don't have to cut the roots out, the rooting system of that tree. And we've seen that where people just cut out the left side of that oak tree that's 100 foot trunk. Yeah, that's not going to cause a problem. So I'm actually trying to get Jake on the phone here. And hold on for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not an uncommon problem. How much water are you actually adding, and when you're having to add it? How often?
Well, I can't say how much it is. I really can't tell. But, every couple of weeks, I pop in that needle and turn the hose on and charge it up to about 40 pounds, and it'll last 2 weeks. By 2 weeks later, it'll be down to 5 or almost 0, and I'll do it again.
So are you gallons? How many gallons would you guess?
10 gallons? I don't know. I don't think that's even a gallon.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Are you using public utility water, or is it well water to fill it up? And the reason I'm asking these questions is because what Chuck's talking about, having to drill a well, we're talking not hundreds, we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars to put that well in.
Hey, Jake, are you ready?
Yeah, man. Where are they located?
What city? He's in Virginia Beach. This is Robert, and this is Jake Gildersleeve. the man when it comes to geothermal. I learned a long time ago, hire people smarter than you. So Jake is, will have the answer for you. So we have a problem, Jake, where every couple weeks, Robert? Was it every couple weeks? Yeah, every couple weeks he's got to hook up city water or well water to fill his loops. So I told him that he wanted to know, is there any way to fix that?
Any way to fix that?
Other than put a new, I told him the best way is to put a new well in, but I don't know that he wants to do that six times. It is closed loop. Yeah.
It's closed loop. It's not as simple as just, you got to find out which loop is leaky, or if it's a loop or if it's a header line. More often than not, it's in the headers. And a lot of times just excavating to find a leak, you end up making more leaks. But the first thing we normally do is, if there's a place in there where we can put in a pressure tank somewhere in the 20 to 32 gallon range and tie it in with a little 1/4-inch tubing to the loop line and just keep constant pressure on there. And it can take a leak that shows up every few weeks and turn into months, if not a year sometimes. Especially on one that is having semi-annual tune-ups, where the technician coming out is trained well enough to repressurize that tank, monitor how fast it's going down. And at some point, a lot of times that leak will show itself, if you give it dry weather, by keeping it under constant pressure. But a loop is a closed system. You lose as much as a pint and you'll drop from 50 to 0. So
really, that's a lot.
It is.
There's no tank on it. There's no, water's like a solid, can't decompress. So it's just expansion in the pipe is all that you have for any volume. And so when you put a big tank on it and just put a little tubing, a pressure gauge, and a fill port, even the homeowner can be trained on how to repressurize his tank. So, I mean, it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of that solution. And I'm just wondering if that's permanent, because, I think this has been going on for years. I was kind of waiting for it to show itself somewhere, but it just won't. It's just so slow that it just doesn't produce enough water in the yard to actually be able to find it. So I've just been doing the same thing for years. And, I've heard of those pressure systems that I could put on there. But like I said, I was just hoping to eventually find it and fix it.
It's very hard to find, especially depending on how deep it's buried. There are some companies that have leak detection devices that can listen for that kind of stuff. But as small as those leaks are, most of the time it's a weep, literally a weep coming out. It doesn't make any noise.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. But anyway, I was just wanted to ask, because like I said, it's nothing new. I know I've been knowing for years that this is almost impossible to find. I was just wanting to know if there was any, what your advice would be.
Yeah, I know. Probably at least a dozen times a year, if not more. We put a pressure tank on a system, and it solves majority of the issues.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well,
cool.
I guess that answers my question.
Yeah. I told you, if it was to be done, Mr. Jake Gildersleeve could figure it out. So, thank you, Jake. I appreciate your wisdom, and thank you, sir. Now get back into church before you get me in trouble with your wife. Thanks for taking the call. So Jake's at church tonight. He goes, I saw you were on the radio tonight. I said, he's like, I figured it was important if you were calling. So hopefully Deb doesn't kick my butt tomorrow because I pulled him out of church. So, but no, I'm so glad we had the resource for you. Jake is, like I said, Gildersleeve Geothermal is a 50-plus-year-old business. And Jake at 68 was looking kind of for a exit strategy, wants to work, as long as he can. He wants to work for a couple more years. So he's doing estimates and design stuff for us. And of course, teaching these young bucks how to use a well rig, which I will tell you, it's really hard to get people into that business.
Yeah, it's not easy.
So some of you graduate from high school and say, I want to jump on this big rig. So, but it is a cool rig though. It is cool. So, but Robert, that is a great question. You are not the only person with that question listening. You have helped thousands of other people with geothermal systems listening because this is not a uncommon problem. I know we have run into this for years and years, and
We've had that question before.
I believe we have had that question before. So, but I'd rather get it from, what do they say? Get it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Get the truth from the horse's mouth. So, but yeah, what a great question. And like I said, we definitely, if you call Worley's, we could definitely help you out with that. And, but thank you for the call. I appreciate it. So,
all right. Thanks for the help.
So yeah, I guess we're going into break. I wanted to tell Rich just to hold on for a second. And while we're on break, remember to call in 627-7979. Call in and we'll be able to answer your questions, get to your questions. Thank you. This is Chuck Worley with the 757 House Whisperers Show. Want to invite you guys back. Thank you guys for coming back and listening on your way home from work. We have got a lot of questions. We had a great geothermal question. We got Rich on hold. We're getting ready to go to Rich. I just want to tell everybody, call back 627-7979. Call into the show. Any questions about problems in your house? From the roof all the way down to the crawl space, gutters, whatever the question is, heating and air, painting. We got a specialist here in windows and doors. Any problems that you are having, call in 627-7979. Go ahead, Rich.
Hi.
Right, Rich.
Yeah, I had a question about kind of efficiencies and insulation and stuff. I've got a pretty big ranch. And it doesn't always heat as well as I'd like it to. It cools better than it heats. And the insulation, it's about 35 years old. The insulation in the roof, in the attic had settled down, and I blew in like 20 inches of insulation, and I think that helped a little bit. But my question was about the crawl space. So right now it's rolled batting between the floor joists in the crawl space, and you know I've seen a lot of people recommend a full encapsulation or just sealing it off or foam or spray foam. There's kind of a two-part question. You know, spray foam. If you got any moisture in your joists, in your floor joists, is spray foam going to seal in that rot, and then also is replacing the regular roll-in batting in between the joists is that efficiency going to get you anywhere?
So those are some really, really good questions. And probably some of our more popular questions are on crawl spaces. And so how I answer these questions is based on the 757, right? So Canada, there's a different answer, right? Northern New York, different answer. I would say Florida, but Florida's on slabs mostly.
Yeah,
so
mainly.
That'll be a different answer too. So the encapsulation. So I am a building science nerd, right? So everything about my answers is based on building and building science. How can we make these houses better? I believe bat insulation, which is the rollout insulation that has the backing on it. It rolls out. It's got Pink Panther commercials.
Yeah.
So y'all remember those?
Oh yeah.
Jack don't remember those. So, Jack, before you were born,
right.
Pink Panther was actually a thing in the insulation business. So anyway, he has no idea what we're talking about. He's 25. So anyway, bat insulation, rollout insulation, you'll see it in attics. You'll definitely see it in crawl spaces. I call bat insulation in a crawl space the Holiday Inn. Now, why do I say that? because every single animal in the world thanks you.
Insect,
Yeah,
everything.
every insect, any
Droplets
mite,
of moisture, love it.
it's, oh my gosh. Yeah, that is true. It's
Yeah.
like a sponge. So bat insulation in a crawl space is literally the most ridiculous thing because, the theory is if the crawl space is 56, 30 degrees and the house is 68, there's a 30, 40 degree delta T there. So you need some insulation. I would agree with that. So bat insulation is a good idea to insulate. The problem is in this moisture area called Virginia, I always try and remind people that you are in a location that is nicknamed tide water. Now, when water is in the name of the area you live in, it tells you there's a lot of moisture here.
Not a good thing.
So in Tidewater, Virginia, we have a lot of moisture, right? So in crawl spaces, it is really hard to control the moisture levels in crawl spaces. And insulation doesn't really help because once the moisture gets in there, once the insulation gets wet, do you know what the R value of wet insulation is?
0.
Yeah, it's 0. Yeah, wet insulation, the R value is 0. So now we have insulation that, again, I call the Holiday Inn. So the animals will still live in it. It's got 0 R value because it's wet or moisture, right? So it really, in this area, I don't feel like it has a great model. If you look at the codes in Virginia, we pull permits on encapsulations every day. They are requiring pull out the insulation in the floors and put in a 2.5, it's a 2-inch foam board, which is R10 insulation, which you would say, hey, R10 is less than R30 or R28 or whatever's in the crawl space. So what we fight against is infiltration. We stop the infiltration of cold air from outside getting into the crawl space or hot, humid air getting into the crawl space. We put I think it's 15 plus mil poly at minimum in the crawl space. We run it up over 6 inches up the insulation foam board wall, and that stops any moisture. So the theory is if it's 30 degrees outside, it's 68 degrees in your house. By me putting foam board on the outside wall, that crawl space is going to be around 60 degrees. Now, if it's 60 degrees in a crawl and 68 degrees in the house, we have a delta T of 8 to 10 degrees, right? So with an 8 to 10 degree delta T, you really don't need insulation anymore. It's only 10 degrees, right? So that's the theory. And then during the summertime, of course, we're not introducing, some people put fans on one side of their house or the other side of the house, and they blow hot, humid air. Well, when the houses back in the codes were created back in the 50s and 60s, a house length was about 30 foot by 30 foot, 900 square foot, 1,200 square foot, 40 by 30, 40 by. So the air vents, you only had a cross breeze of 30 feet. So the cross air was enough to really keep the crawl space dry. Now we got these, you mentioned a really large ranch or big ranch, now they're 100 foot, they're L-shaped, they're all that stuff. So, when you're doing that, you need to be able to control the humidity in that crawl space. And the only way that I can guarantee that would be to put a dehumidifier in the crawl space or cut vents in the ductwork and control that space because it's so humid in this area. Does that all kind of make sense? It's not my opinion or this opinion. I am using Virginia code, which I have argued with pest control people, not Cindy, but I've argued with pest control. Man, I did this. I've been doing it for 50 years. Well, the code as of 2019, 18 this is the code for the state of Virginia, especially on encapsulated crawls. So I don't have to argue with pest control guys anymore because I follow code and they don't typically. So.
Yeah. And I mean, that all makes sense. And I guess I'm looking at, the return on investment. I want to get I want the juice to be worth the squeeze. And I feel like I once got a quote when I bought the house. The inspector was like, "Hey, I recommend getting the crawl space encapsulated, and we'll try to get the seller to do it." And we were like, "That was great," but when the seller didn't do it, the quote came back at $20,000, and I'm thinking, well, if all of my heating bills is, let's say all of my heating bills is $4,000 a year, and I'm going to save 10% or 20%, let's say I'm going to save $800 over the course of the year on the very cold and very hot months, and then I feel like it's going to be 15 years to get my $20,000 back. So it's like, I'm looking at return on investment.
Based on that math, it'll be like 58 years. But yes, so typically you don't do it for the efficiency. What you do it for is to save your house from rotting out.
Yeah.
So the death of a house is water and moisture. So I grew up in Norfolk. So some of these older houses in Norfolk, I think Ghent, Larchmont, they got 100-year-old houses there, right? So I've seen houses that are built back then that are strong as oxes. You can't even put a nail through the wood.
Exactly.
And then the house right next door had a water leak for 2 years and nobody ever fixed it. And the house is literally sagging on one side, right? So wood doesn't go bad. It gets wet and goes bad, right?
Yeah.
So wood normally is not going to change. So if you have a moisture issue in your crawl space, what's typically going to happen is your house is, so you're saving yourself money. The reason that you do the encapsulation is so you don't have to pay for the $30,000 of foundation repair and then 10, 15, 20 or whatever the encapsulation cost. So you don't have to do it again in 10 years, right? So every house is different. Every house is different. So, but I have seen houses, I've given a price for an encapsulation on a house. It looked like a war zone underneath this house. It looked like a rainforest underneath this house. And the guy chose, literally, you walk in and I'm looking for monkeys swinging from these rafters. Like it is
Not funny,
a rain forest under this guy's house. It's rotted out. I could literally stick my screwdriver through the wood. And the guy's like, I'm not encapsulating. Okay. Like it's not my house. My house isn't rotten out. So I tell him, I take pictures, I send them to him. And anyway, he decides not to do it. 5 years later, guess what happened? Foundation guy came in. I won't tell you who, but he ended up spending $50-some thousand replacing every joist in his house and encapsulating so it didn't happen again. So it's there's pros and cons to every situation. If your house is not that bad, you don't have moisture underneath your house, you don't have any issues, you're not having funky smells, you don't have mold growing underneath your house, your ductwork's not, molding over, sweating and condensing underneath the house. There's a lot of science reasons why we encapsulate too. All ductwork leaks, all ductwork sweats if it's in a hot, humid crawl space, right? So
right.
People tell me they have ductwork in the crawl space, but they don't have mold. And I said, that is physically, scientifically impossible. Cold air touching hot air doesn't sweat, condense. And now you may not see it and you may feel good about your answer, but it's not accurate.
Yeah, all my ducks are in the attic. So.
Oh, praise God. All right. You're good. At least you have that going for you. At least you have that going for you. So, but does all that make sense? Did I lose you?
You there, Rich?
I lost you. Hello.
Yeah. Sorry. I said, did you want any of the trivia answers?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I believe it's like the 25th anniversary of Facebook today.
It is.
Dang.
It absolutely. Facebook is older than Jack. Facebook is a year older than Jack.
Dang.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And we only got a few minutes left on the show before we got to cut the break. To the end of the show. So you might as well. Is avocado a fruit or a vegetable?
Avocado is a fruit because it has a pit, right?
Is that right?
It is.
It is, yeah.
Everybody,
Like a
thinks,
peach.
Everybody thinks
Yeah.
it's a vegetable. And that shook me. I was like, really? It's not a vegetable? I thought it was a vegetable. But yeah, I did. Actually, the pit thing actually makes sense.
Yeah.
The pit thing. Yeah. So like a peach.
So it's like a peach.
That's a great. So it looks like you might get a Chick-fil-A and some free wine. How about that? Get the wine for your wife and Chick-fil-A
That
for
sounds
you.
like well, thanks a lot for the
That's
information.
for you.
I love your show. Appreciate it.
Look, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said thanks a lot for the insight on the crawl space stuff. I love your show.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Appreciate
We
it,
don't
man.
Thank you,
mind
sir.
coming out and just kind of giving you our opinion, taking
Yeah.
a look at the crawl space. I don't mind doing that for you. And if you had any bugs or anything,
Yeah, when you
Cindy
look
would
at
come
the,
out too. So
Combined experience we have on this show, you got 50, you got 90, you got over
I mean, Jack's
175,
got at
200
least 4
years.
minutes.
No, Jack's got 4
for
minutes,
Jack,
yeah. But with the rest of us, you got over 200 years of experience in different
Oh.
fields. And
I mean, there's
You
not
know,
much that we haven't seen.
I was going to say, we run across a lot of things. And I'm not talking about roadkill. Yeah.
That's- although I hit a deer once.
Yeah. I've never done that. That's a horrible deal. But
Well,
yeah,
thanks, Rich,
thank
for
you.
calling in.
Calling
That
in.
was a great question. So we had some good questions.
Yeah.
Geothermal questions.
Yeah.
Actually about the wells. Typically somebody calls in with that question. I just send Jake over there to take care of it. So
Yeah.
I actually didn't know the answer. So I did know the tank. I knew, but I couldn't explain why. So
Well, we introduce ourselves again
let's do
before
it.
we
I am Chuck
run it.
Worley with Worley's Home Services. I do heating and air, electrical, plumbing, geothermal, wells, pumps, and insulation and spray foam. I will introduce the only woman you know with a license to kill, and that is Cindy with Alpha Pest Solutions. And Albin with Albin Co. does remodeling and kitchens, bathrooms, and all that.
New
So,
construction.
go ahead, new construction.
I'm Michael Davenport, CVP Windows and Doors. Me and my partner, Barry Taylor, we're the only window manufacturer in this part of Virginia, even through Richmond, Lynchburg. We make the windows specifically to fit in your window opening on a replacement job. We use Therma-Tru exterior doors, and we will get the job done right. And we only use our 1099, our W-2 employees. We only use our personal employees. We have a great
Can you
team of
explain
people.
that? Can you explain that? Like 1099 is
Oh, yeah.
where if you
1099
guys sub out to some
Yeah,
dude in
exactly.
the truck, or we'll say Chuck in a truck, even though I hate
Yeah,
that
yeah.
phrase, right? What about Mike in a truck?
Yeah.
Chuck in a truck.
No, if I
I
had
say
to,
Bubba and Skeeter. I
Yeah.
say Bubba and Skeeter.
yeah,
See, the guy that can't afford a license, can't afford insurance, can't afford
and uses
to
a
do
burner
the right-
phone.
Dan in a van. I like that one.
Dan in
I
a
like
van.
that one. Thanks, Damien. So those guys, the guys can't afford any insurance, so basically these bigger companies sub out to these guys, pay them 1099 so they don't have to pay their taxes, they don't have to pay workers' comp, they don't have to
And
pay all that stuff.
Here's one thing really important. Chuck brought up
People think they're
insurance.
getting a better deal,
Yeah.
but yet they're not.
Yeah,
because
the
of
burner
company.
phone don't work after 6 months normally. But here's what's really
just get a new
important
burner
about
phone.
insurance is that so the guy's a 1099 person. All our people work for us. All of them are totally insured. And there's this thing called workers' comp. And so he's got a guy that has no insurance working on your house. And the guy that has no insurance falls and gets hurt. Well, he is going to go against your homeowner's insurance, and he's going to be collecting money against your homeowner's insurance, and then your rate goes up. And it's not a good deal for you all the way around. We have millions of dollars worth of coverage because we protect us and we protect you against things that shouldn't happen, but they do. I mean, it's just like we all have car insurance because you don't want to be in a wreck, but you want to be covered if you are. And Justin Murphy, Pyramid Roofing, they're the same way. They're totally insured. Jack, why don't you swing in there and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, well, thank you, Mike. Yeah, well, my name is Jack Keller. We're over here in Yorktown, and we do painting, residential and commercial, and we also do some drywall work as well. But yeah, similar to Mike and what Chuck were saying, but we have all in-house painters as well. All my guys and girls are background checked, super respectful, going to take care of your home and make sure the whole experience with this is just, you guys are taken care of from start to finish.
That's good stuff. Tell us a little bit more about Legacy Painting.
So yeah, we were founded in 2022 in Yorktown. And really,
That's
you know,
only 2.5 years ago,
I
man.
know.
Really?
He's killing it, man. He's killing
I
it.
know.
Just hired his 6th employee in 2.5 years.
He's done work for 2 different customers of mine. They all
Both of them
call
are
up
staff.
raving about him.
we got
How
2 more
good a
coming
We
out
had
job
this
one
week.
man
call
did.
on the radio and thank you.
Yep, he did. He did.
It was
Bill
Jim,
did.
Bill Miller.
Yeah, it was Bill.
But yeah, I mean, I started working at Sherwin-Williams and constantly running into homeowners and customers that were having issues. And so we just really tried to
He
focus on,
uses good paint.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just focus on really clear
By
communications.
the way,
and-
water is not something you put on your wall. It's not a paint product. Water is what you use to clean your brush. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Jack.
Yeah, don't wipe your walls down with water. But yeah, just try to focus on clear communication, let you know who's coming, when we're coming. When we start your project, if it's a 4-day project, we're going to be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday till it's done. And just try to make the whole experience just super easy and stress-free.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you. Thank you for introducing
Thanks for having me on the show.
yourself, man. It's been we got a couple minutes left on the show. Everybody has answered all the trivia questions. I do want to thank you guys again for calling into the show. I want to explain to you, when you call in, you're literally helping everybody else in your neighborhood. So when you call in and ask a question, you're literally helping thousands of listeners with the same question or a question very, very similar.
Very
to what-
true.
And you're really, I mean, I get people that call in. That guy there said he loves our show and thanked us for the show. And I can't walk around a whole week without someone coming up to me, over 50, not Jack's age. It says, man, you have a great show.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are catching us on Facebook Live. I want to remind you guys, we are on YouTube, 757 House Whisperer. We have got Facebook. We're on Facebook, I think Instagram. We are pretty much everywhere. If you want to look up 757 House Whisperer, our phone number is 955-9415. That is 955-9415. You can text us or call us and leave us a message if we don't answer. But that is the show dedicated, or the phone dedicated to the show. You guys can constantly get in touch with us through all of our websites, but the 757housewhisperer.com. Please ask questions. You have a prompt on there that you can ask questions on there. Facebook is a big one for us, but you can hear our shows on YouTube, Spotify, and all these other, places that we go. So
Yeah.
I will, we got about less than a minute left. So I'm just going to, we got 30 seconds left. So thank you, Damian. So I just want to say thank you guys for joining the show this week. You guys just want to say, hey, say bye.
Hey, yeah, I got to tell you something is better than when we were shutting down a few weeks ago and it was 12 degrees or 17 degrees when we went out. It was a tough time for everybody. I hope all of y'all stayed nice and warm during that
No
time.
freezing up. All right, we're heading out. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
sir.
Thanks for the phone
Have
calls.
a great one.
The preceding program was sponsored and paid for by Worley Home Services, who's entirely responsible for its content.